My guest this week is Kevin McDonald. Kevin, along with Dave Foley, Bruce McCulloch, Mark McKinney, and Scott Thompson, are the Kids in the Hall, the groundbreaking Canadian comedy troupe, whose sketch show ran in the 1990s on the CBC and HBO. The troupe broke gender and sexual boundaries and proved to be a biting critique on the quotidian existence. The show recently had a new season on HBO, which was critically acclaimed, and rightfully so. Kevin McDonald has also created a rock opera entitled Superstar, an autobiographical musical journey into some of the most shameful moments in Kevin's life, including an epically drunken caper with his best friend and fellow kid in the hall, Dave Foley, and his continuing cuckish relationship with a woman who won't stop cheating on him, aka Cheater. As always, it's a self-critical and hilarious look into the comedian's inner world. His next performances of Superstar will be at the Soho Playhouse in New York City, starting March 19th, and will also feature performers Janine Garofalo, Dave Hill, Frank Conniff, John Wayleski, and Robin Rothman. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome the Revolutions Per Movie, Kevin McDonald. Hi, Kevin.
I'm fighting back there's a tickle in my throat. I made a shake, and I don't have a perfect blender. There's banana stuck in my throat. No, why do you keep telling people that my blender's perfect? So I'm about to cough, and my ear's itchy. There, okay, the tickle's gone.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, congratulations on your smash worldwide hit, Superstar. You finally did the rock opera you've always wanted to.
Thank you for exaggerating. Thank you.
You know, most rock operas have an origin story, but did you ever have any desire to be part of musical theater? Were you ever part of that scene at all?
Well, no. The thing is, technically, though I sing the lead part and I wrote all the songs, I can't really sing or write songs. Technically,
that's perfect.
I've always wanted. You know my theory. Every comedian wants to be a musician. Every musician wants to be a comedian.
My second question here, right here. Most comedians I know also want to be in a band, and most musicians want to be comedians. Why is that?
I don't know. I don't know. I personally, I know my first conscious memories, I think, give or take the time when I was 5 when the bully told me there was no Santa Claus and I ran home crying. Listening to the Beatles. My Aunt Judy gave me her Beatles albums because her boyfriend had split up with her and she blamed rock and roll, and she gave me all her Beatles albums. And I just remember thinking that I'd be part of a group, and I assumed it was music. I have very little musicality. The one thing I have, Dave Foley says this, he said it first, that I have a gift for melody. I know enough chords and guitar that I can play that. I can't play like notes and riffs. I can't do that. Look, I don't have the hands of a surgeon. Oh yeah, this is recording. I'm holding my hands up to the phone for people listening. And
we'll animate it. We'll animate it later.
We
got time.
Animate my hands. I don't have the hand, but I know chords, so I can sort of write, and then I give it to every musician, and they invent riffs and make it into music. But your question, I was not into musical theater. I like musicals. I think what's it called? That movie from the 50s.
West Side Story?
That's good. I like that. It's a musical. What I'm going blank because I'm old and forgetting things.
Camelot.
Singing in the Rain.
Singing in the Rain, sure.
That's like a perfect movie. But when I was a kid, I'm a Catholic, a lapsed Catholic. I'm a lapsed Catholic. Add that other word, lapsed. The one thing I remember about Catholic high school that I liked was that on the day before Good Friday, because they were going to let us off on Good Friday, they the afternoon they said everyone can go if you want, or you can. We're going to show you Jesus Christ Superstar, the movie that was just out that year. I guess so. I guess I was 12. And and almost everybody went, but me and a few other nerds. And I went crazy how good it was. Finally, the Jesus story in a way that I could care about. And Judas was so cool. I mean, he's bad. Yes. He does a bad thing.
But he looks sharp.
He looks sharp. He looks sharp.
And he's got a killer voice. Yeah. They seem cool with each other, you know?
He kills himself very cool. He kills himself. The rope tying around the tree.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, so for me, having that record in my parents' record collection, I had no religion in my background. And that was my first learnings about Jesus Christ, was through this double album, and I was so lost because I hadn't seen the movie yet. The album came with that little booklet, like I had,
Yeah.
and I just was like, I thought the music was amazing, but I just was really kind of creeped out. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Why is that guy killing his best friend?
Yeah, exactly. And also just like, oh wait, his blood is this and his body is
Yeah.
this, and
all those whips. 31, crack. 32, crack. 33, 39.
So viscerally and musically, that film got in you.
Yes. I remember I got my tape recorder at home, and I tried to sing the songs, recording it. Like I didn't know about buying records. I was 12. I lived in the suburbs. I didn't know, but I learned. I guess I learned because of that. Because it's funny. You have the original Jesus Christ Superstar album. I never got that. I went straight to the Ted Neely version, the movie version, and that's what I've had my whole life.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if I hear the original Andrew Lloyd Webber version, it would shock me how different it would be, probably.
A lot of the Kids in the Hall stuff, some of my favorite stuff is just your voice is so musical, right? So, one of the earliest sketches you did with Bruce McCulloch was the Suburbs. And
Yes.
You're talking about in the suburbs, as the day turns to night, we become our dads. And you're both in unison.
In the suburb. Good for you for mentioning it. No one's mentioned that for a long time. That was sort of in Toronto when we were staged. That's sort of our signature scene for a while, because we were young guys talking about, and we were from the suburbs. And before Tim Burton, we talked about the suburbs, the dark twisted. Yeah, what was that? What's the melody of that song? Bruce came up with the main melody, and I came up with the counter melody. I remember my counter melody. In the suburbs, we cut our grass, and in the suburbs, But what's you don't have to know. I should know. I'm going blank. The famous melody. I just remember I was going in the suburbs.
Is it fun to just lean into music? As like to be like, all right, we're gonna take this and actually put music to it instead of just having it be a spoken piece.
Yeah, because a lot of the stage things that had music in it was just us. I guess a cappella. We all sort of want to be musicians, and we're all sort of non-musical and musical in our weird way. Like I'm non-musical, but I can write songs in a way. And Scott's not musical, but he fronts a band, and it's an amazing punk band that he can sing in.
Mouth Congress.
Yeah, and Bruce like is a good enough bass player that he writes like great songs. And then when we got the TV show, and we had to somehow translate it to music, like to actual music. The Shadowy Men, our band, or you could say we're their comedy troupe. He's my wife, I'm her husband, whatever. They had a little trouble, but they did it. But sometimes we wrote stuff that needed like jazz stuff. We didn't know that it was jazz. Like there's a scene. We just did it at San Francisco Sketch Fest. We did all the three of us. Mark and Dave didn't want to come and sing, but there's a scene that Scott and I did called Stair Climber. I'm on the first step. I remember when we just like made it up a cappella. It was sort of like not even a melody, sort of not a rhythm. It has something musical about it. And we recorded what we had and gave it to this famous piano jazz guy, Joe Seeley. When we heard his version, it was so hard to sing, and we had to record it so we could film it like a video, film it and lip sync it. Joe Seeley. I had one headphone on here, and I had his lips in my ear, and I just parroted what he did, because I didn't like the melody was hard enough, but the hardest thing was when to sing. It's not 4/4. Like it's not 4/4. I've written 10 million songs, Chris, and they're all 4/4. I don't know how to. I don't know how to do a 5/7, a 7/8. Like I don't even know what that means.
Well, I also love that. When you guys would make fun of, like, whether it was a record store clerk or a musician, it was done with love. The one that you have about the best bass player I've ever heard. He's playing so sweet. I'll be getting chubby. You know what I like most about him is the neck. It's just like it's truth. Like we all know bass players. It's a special type of world they exist in.
Yeah, we sort of have to make fun, and we have to honor the things we like. May I tell you how that scene was written?
Absolutely.
Because Bruce plays bass. His dad was actually, as he puts it, a jazz cat, and he played until he got a family and had to become a traveling salesman, like my dad. He was a bass player in a jazz band, so Bruce can really play. And I was at his house. This was when we were just a stage troupe. I think it was right before. I think we had the TV show coming, but we had a few months, so we still were doing stage stuff before we started working on it. And so we were going to meet Sunday afternoon. We were going to give ourselves 2 or 3 hours to write, and then there was some big NFL playoff game that we wanted to see. So after 2 or 3 hours, we got no ideas. We had no ideas. So I said, okay, well, give up. We were sort of like the monkeys. Bruce and Dave and I lived in the same apartment building. I mean, the building, not the same apartment, like in bunk beds or anything. It wasn't that much like the monkeys. So I remember saying, okay, goodbye, Bruce. We tried. And then let's see tomorrow. We're all going to write tomorrow. And then he had a long hallway, and before the door was the bathroom. So he didn't even know. He thought I'd gone. So I went to the bathroom, and then when I got out of the bathroom, I heard him playing bass, waiting for the football game, playing bass. And all of a sudden, I ran in and said, "Look at the bass player! Look at him play! Look at that cat go!" And then we missed the first half of the football game because then we sort of wrote the scene.
Well, I wanted to ask, how do you get out of a scene? Is that the hardest part? Some of them, like, obviously like Citizen Kane has a perfect ending, and I don't know if you knew the ending when you came up with that. Okay.
It took us a while for that one. Bruce thought it was so corny. So, you can't. They would do that in Carol Burnett. You can't stab a guy in the hand with a knife. I don't really think Carol Burnett would stab Tim Conway in the hand with a knife.
Yeah, right.
Oh, the endings are the hardest thing in sketches. No matter how good of a sketch comic you are, everyone thinks that. Monty Python sort of ruined it for us because they didn't end their sketches. They had their characters walk out of sketches and walk into the next sketch.
Right.
And when they did have an ending, a typical ending for a sketch, one of my favorite sketches of theirs, because it's like a real sketch for them. The spotted fork sketch. Do you know that sketch, Monty Python?
Of course.
Yeah, and they had like a traditional ending, but even before the ending, they were embarrassed by it. I guess like Bruce would have been. So they had a thing, and now the punchline. And
Right.
too bad I didn't tell them about the knife or whatever it was that he.
And then the crowd revolts.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. They were ashamed of it too. So they realized years before we did that it's very hard to write. And we would have, sometimes Dave and I wrote kind of Monty Pythonish endings, and we weren't allowed to from the other guys of the troupe because it was Monty Python. Because they had done it, we couldn't do that. So we had to think of like real ending. I think they were weird, Monty Python, in the structure of the scenes, how the scenes were. We were weird at all. It was within the scenes, like within the story. If that makes any sense.
Yes, absolutely. You know what's interesting though? I was thinking about the difference between Monty Python and Kids in the Hall, and it does come up in the tonality of your rock opera too. I never worried about the mental health of Monty Python members. Like I always was like, oh, I want to take care of the kids. Like you would do a skit like, you do a sketch like Daddy Drank.
Yeah.
And with Dave, and you're watching it and you're like, this has to be true because no one would write this without knowing this. And then I'd be like, and people were laughing. Part of me was wanting to hold all of you and be like, are you okay? But it was so interesting. That really was such a different thing for comedy for me, was to just actually have empathy for the people who were making me laugh.
I'm wanting to get us a therapist. Yes. I mean, a lot of, like, maybe more than half our scenes are wild imagination, like Head Crushing and Flying Pig, but half of them, unlike Monty Python, they're about ourselves. Scott, Bruce, and I for sure are about ourselves. I would say, and I'm not bragging because I don't mean this as a compliment. It doesn't mean we're better, but I would say Monty Python are clever, and we're a little more soulful, I would say.
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
And I'll tell you the story of how we wrote that. That's good. Yeah, the Secret Sixth Kid in the Hall, Norm Hiscock, like the fifth Beatle. He's a big showrunner now. He was sort of our friend who was he had a job by the time we were like discovered. But by the second year we hired him as a writer. And Dave, Norm, and I wrote a lot. He's a genius writer. He's the showrunner of the new King of the Hill coming out soon.
Okay.
And we would meet, and we didn't have any sketch ideas. It was a writing period. We were in my cubicle. We always met in my cubicle. I never even went in Dave's cubicle. Oh my God. I just thought of that. I ever like, I don't know even where his cubicle was.
Right.
Norm didn't have a cubicle, so he just hung out my. But we didn't have an idea, so I started telling him stories about my drunk dad, and like those bastards were laughing, and I thought, well, there's something funny about this. And then Dave said those magic words you hear in a sketch writing office a lot. Hey, that can be a sketch. And I said, what? What do you mean? I'm telling you horrible stories, and we wrote it up, and we brought it to the read through, and it made it. And so cut to like a month later, we're about to film it. There's a live audience in the studio. We're about to go on. And suddenly I start shaking. They're not going to laugh at it because to me, it was always sad. I guess I'm just sort of a funny person who told a sad story. And it seemed that for once, I lost the sense of irony, I guess. So I can't do this, but I did it. And I went up and they laughed their heads off. And I thought, oh, Dave and Norm were right. Yes.
You're really sharing a part that like most people would be like, I'm putting this away. Like,
right.
That's not a story anyone should know. You are like, I'm writing a musical about a really dark period of my life. And you're going to sing along.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, it's always easy. It's always easy. I've been to a few therapists, but this is way better. Like I'm really... My mother once said this to me once when my dad was really drunk and mean, and he said something really cruel to her that I don't even remember. And he stormed out, and I made a joke about it, only because I was selfish. I thought, oh, this is a funny joke. I know it's a bad time, but the world's got to hear this joke. So I said it, and it made my mother that's what made her cry, not my dad. And she broke a plate, and she said, Kevin McDonald, all you are is funny. And she did not mean it as a compliment, Chris.
Wow. And what'd you do with that?
Well, first it shattered me, but as years go by and writing the kind of sketches you are, I think she has a point.
Right.
that like on one hand, I am dealing with it in a way, and I accept it. The thing is, just use it for comedy. I don't think I'm better off for it. I don't think like, oh, I don't need a therapist because I'm doing my therapy. I don't think that.
Right.
I'm missing the recovery part of it for sure. But on the other hand, I've already said two other hands. On the third other hand, just getting laughs and laughing about it makes it less scary.
Sure. Well, it's so interesting because growing up in the era that I did, where I was seeing rock opera films like The Wall or The Who's Tommy or Jesus Christ Superstar, they were just dark, messed up films, claustrophobic, horrible childhood stories, trauma.
Oh yeah.
And it's such
they're all childhood stories, aren't they? Even Jesus.
So yeah, exactly. And it's so weird that I'm like, I try to think of one buoyant rock opera, but they're just like, even if the music is optimistic, there's something about how people want to tell something in a rock opera that makes it inherently dark. It's kind of weird.
I don't know why. Maybe that's what makes it opera. Maybe it's operatic to hit the dark side and be theatrical that way. That's true. Tommy, The Wall, they're all. I've never seen Pippin. They didn't make a movie. I never saw it. Is that dark?
Pippin's off the map. We're going to take that off the thing. But yeah, and then you were getting albums too. Styx's Kilroy was here. Quadrophenia. Yeah. I did write a concept album where I had different bands write songs based on my ideas. So I had like Guided by Voices and Stephen Malkmus of Pavement. And I gave them stories. And the story was basically about a soldier who has severe allergies and leads his army the wrong way during the war because of allergies, because I'm an allergy sufferer that has no sympathy. It's like the unsympathetic illness. And I just thought it was the dumbest thing to hang something on. But it was so fun because I just had to be like, childhood, the doctor mom, this and that, like all the tropes were there. And then building him up into a god after he's dead. It just was like, it wrote itself, right? How did you start putting this together?
I'd love to hear it, by the way.
Colonel Jeffrey Pumpernickel.
Oh, what a great name. I love to, can I download it somewhere on Apple Tunes?
I'll get it to you for sure.
Thank you very much. Yeah, maybe you're the proof that it doesn't have to be dark. Though you've just convinced me that it does have to be dark. I was doing a podcast that failed for a few years before COVID. That because I didn't know how to do I just wanted to do what I when they said do it in front of a live audience. I thought, well, it's got to be funny, and it became more of a variety show, like sketches and songs. I was write one song for it, and after one particular podcast, Alex, one of the producers, I was talking to him, and I was telling him about this dark story about my girlfriend at the time, who the rock opera's about, who I always call cheater, and and I call her that in the rock opera, as I guess you know. And so you know about the thing,
Yes,
the
the
benefit,
event,
the benefit that I go to.
yes, that like you could say this is about a night on the town with Dave Foley, and you'd be like, oh yeah, they're gonna get in some trouble. You would never guess in a million years where this story goes. And then
Yeah.
you wouldn't know the level on top of that. And then the final level on top of that. It is a total pyramid of mayhem
Yes.
and shame and regret. And oh, it's incredible.
And it's true. As you know, it's a true story.
Yes. Yes. I do like your asides where you're like, it's true.
It's true. And it's true with music. And I was telling this story to Alex, and Alex made a joke, said, wow, it sounds like a rock opera. Proving your point. Sounds like,
yeah.
And then I thought, oh, for the next podcast, it's going to be a rock opera. It was going to be in Seattle for a month. I had a month to write it. And, you know, sometimes when you're excited about something and you open the window in your head, the window of creativity, and songs just came pouring. The songs that I wrote without guitar, there are a lot of GAD, different versions of GAD, because that's what I hum, I guess. So then the other half of the songs, I got a guitar and made some weird weird chords, just not to bore everybody. But the ideas kept coming. First it was in order, and then the songs came out of order, which sort of made it more fun. And then you sort of have a little bit of a puzzle you got to put together. I think it was great that I only had a month to do it. If I had a year, I probably wouldn't. I probably would have given up. But it was easier that way. That's how it came about.
Okay, were you writing the music alongside the words, or what was the chicken egg there?
It's always I wrote the songs first, and then the few bits of dialogue I wrote afterwards. And
Okay.
I can't think of lyrics without a melody. I'm not a poet. I don't understand poems. I'm halfway through Walt Whitman, Leaves of Grass, but I've been reading it for 7 years, and it's.
Well, and these songs in this musical are Walt Whitman-esque. I mean, you've got I was impotent for 2 hours.
Yeah.
My God, we have nothing in common.
Yes.
What are the heterosexuals doing? I mean,
you see the influence of Walt on me.
Yes, they're hits. They're hits. So, you know, it's very curious also with rock operas. There's a choice where you could either do the thing where you talk all the time and you sing everything, you know, we're going over here to the window, we're opening it up, da da da. Or you can have a narrator, and you kind of chose to have a narrator be part of your thing. What made you want to do that?
Well, this is interesting. If you're boring, which I am.
Stop. Don't make me find you and hug you. Come on.
My daddy drank.
I know.
Because I think I'm glad I picked the narrator. And the only reason I did was that the way the podcast went, I always had an announcer. At first it was for the joke, which ran out really quickly, where I would be doing my monologue and the announcer would say, Kevin is doing the face where his eyes go this way and that way. And then I just kept the announcer. So I thought, well, I need something to glue the story together. So why don't I just keep the announcer and make him a narrator? And and so that's, I'm sorry, it's not a more glorious reason, but it helped a lot.
I'm interested because you have different people performing at different cities. You know, you've had, you know, Ben from Death Cab for Cutie.
Yeah, he was the first Dave Foley.
Right. So it's weird. So, like, how do you go about picking who's going to do it?
Well, when I do like a celebrity show, I pick, nowadays I just asked Dave Hill to ask his friends, because Dave Hill knows everybody. He knows you, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's been on the show.
He knows everybody. Yeah, I think he's going to be my last best friend I ever make in my life, because it happened like
Yes.
2 years ago, and I think I'm 63. I don't need any more. Like, I mean, by best friends, I mean, don't be jealous, Dave Foley and Norm Hiscock, all the kids and all that. You're all tied. You're all tied. But
Yeah, but Dave he's a good spirit, you
he is a
know?
good spirit. Boy, everybody knows him and everybody likes him.
Right.
Even me. I'm like a bowl of jelly. Not everybody likes me.
So how has the show changed from when you first did it in Seattle to doing it now?
Well, I originally added 6 more songs, and after doing it a few times, I realized it was too long. So I've added 4 songs. I strengthened what I dare to call Act 3. I know some playwright is going, "You have no right to call that Act 3. It's just a long sketch." But I dared to call. Calm down, no coward. But
Yeah.
I call Act 3. I strengthened the thing. I thought, I don't really have you got to have a big moment. If I'm going to really like do a rock opera, there has to be a big moment, like the Garden of Gethsemane song. There has to be like a Garden of Gethsemane moment where the hero is tortured, and then by the end of the song, you know the tragic route that he's going to take.
Yes. I just loved that you put Dave Foley as a musical presence in this,
Yes.
and just the sweetness of him being like, "What are you thinking?" You
Yeah.
know, or just come out. This will make you feel better. It's so funny. I mean, what did Dave think of being put in this?
Dave hasn't seen it yet, and I know he almost came twice, and twice he had once he got COVID, and I don't know if you've seen the new. I don't know if you heard the new version. I rewrote it just recently, because at the end, the end song, and the punchline is, and
Yes.
so many horrible things have happened before, when the audience hears and the punchline is, they go, "Oh." And then they were disappointed before, because I didn't really have a big punchline. I just repeated the one that I had just heard. But then I told people the story that Dave also had slept with Cheater. So then I started thinking, oh, that would be a great last punchline to end the thing. So almost the last thing, and the punchline is, Cheater also slept with Dave Foley.
Oh my God.
And then the audience goes crazy now. So I bring that up because I'm afraid for Dave to see it now, because he.
Yeah, I love your lyric when you were singing about Cheater. You say, "I was in love with the girl with the Bowie fetish. I look more like Flo and Eddie, the lead singer of the Turtles. Oh, later he worked with Frank Zappa, and I know nobody remembers, but I was like, oh my God, this is straight to my heart. He's talking about Flo and Eddie.
Yeah, and who knows Flo and Eddie? No one knows Flo. Even people my age. You do, obviously.
But even if you don't know, it's just funny. Flo and Eddie is a funny, like it just sounds funny. Like in your mind, you're like, oh, somebody Zappa that. And then if you see who they are, you're like, oh my God, come on, Kevin. You're better than that. I mean, they're cool. You're cool. Come on.
Exactly. I exist in both worlds, because when I was a teenager in Second City Workshops in Toronto, I was overweight and had crazy hair. And I forget his name, Michael something, a legendary teacher, not Del Close, a legendary teacher at Second City, was there from Chicago. And he said to me, and I'm the only one, because I'm a music nerd, even back then, I knew who Flo and Eddie were, the Turtles, the Zappa. And he came to me and he said, you look just like Flo and Eddie, but I guess you get that all the time. And I thought, oh my God, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
no offense, Flo, but
yeah, I know. It's like part of you is like, yeah, he's cool. I like the Turtles.
Yeah, he's cool.
I like Zappa.
Yeah.
But yeah, and also the good thing about Flo and Eddie is they didn't give a damn how they looked.
I know.
They didn't care at all.
You're right.
That was
That's
kind of
cool
the greatest thing
them.
about them. Yeah, they'd just be like, I'm not wearing a shirt. I don't care. I'm dumpy. I don't care.
It's funny. They were funny too, and they thought it was funny. See, my tragic flaw is that I did care. So
yes. Yeah, join the club.
And also, aren't they the best singers ever? Like, aren't they?
Oh, incredible!
Why else would Frank Zappa put them in his band? They're the best singers ever.
They sang the backing parts on Mark Bolan's Slider album. And,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, they sang with Mark Bolan on those records. So when those weird falsetto harmonies, they're doing all those like high harmony falsetto things.
They both sang high, didn't they? They could both do
Yes.
every kind of thing.
Yeah. Planet Queen. Check it out, people.
I will.
It's
I will.
incredible.
I will.
I want to ask you, a lot of staged musicals do get a film version made.
Yeah.
So if Superstar, your rock opera, could turn into a film, who do you imagine would direct it, and what style do you think it would be in?
So I'm going to give the straight answer. Well, I'm planning it and I want to direct it. But, you know who I think, to follow the spirit of your question? Uh, it's not a rock opera, but another movie from the 70s that's sort of in the spirit of rock operas that I really love. And it was filmed in this city where I live, Winnipeg. I moved to Winnipeg from Los Angeles because of a woman I love, Paula. And anyway, Phantom of the Paradise.
Oh, I just had Paul Williams. He came to town. We did a live event together for the show.
I was just in Portland too. I bet I was there.
It was awesome. We showed a version of Phantom of the Paradise called Phantom that had been restored.
Oh, wow.
We talked for 45 minutes, and then he's been collaborating with this band, Portugal the Man. So they did some songs. We did it all for charity. He is killer. But I will say this, one of the weirdest things about spending time with Paul Williams is because he means so much to people in their childhood, whether it was like the Muppet movie,
Right.
the Love Boat, Smoking the Bandit, whatever. It was like I had a real live living Ewok on stage. People could not, they were stalking him, and we had to like kind of move him to another room because it was getting hairy with fandom.
Wow.
And I just never seen it. It was like, people are like, Paul Williams, you came to me in my dreams. But yeah, Phantom of the Paradise.
It's a brilliant movie, yeah. So I was going to say Brian De Palma because of that. And Paul Williams, I know I'm supposed to, and I do. My favorite bands in the 80s were the Pixies and the Replacements, and I say that all the time, Camphor and Beethoven. But Paul Williams is a great songwriter. But like, even We've Only Just Begun, like I used to call it a guilty pleasure, but now that I'm older, I'm not guilty about it at all. It's a great song.
Phantom of the Paradise is a perfect film to bring that does crack the thing. It is sad, but it is one of those things that is not weighted down. It comes out of the gate going, we're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
This is a cult film. This is not like high drama. This is not high art. We're gonna have fun. And so many rock opera films do not do that. Like Ken Russell and Tommy is like,
yeah, all
right, you're gonna be depressed in 8 minutes with the overture.
Yeah.
So I appreciate in yours that even though the material is like you know, which is not surprising coming from you, very dark but so funny, and that the energy is just very high, and it's just I really enjoyed it. So congratulations.
Because my mother said she broke the plate. That's the only thing I can do it funny. Because Phantom Paradise is I would call it a funny tragedy.
Yeah, I feel like that, and Hedwig and the Angry Inch is another one that I really
I love that.
Yes.
That's a rock opera that I always forget to mention. I just saw it again for the third time. It's so great. The songs are so great.
I know. That's the thing, is like usually in films about rock, it's so wrong. You know, like they're like, we're in a rock band doing our thing, and you're like, no, you don't know what rock is. You know, it's such a weird thing. Like, rock is hard to do in a rock opera.
Yes, it is.
So when you were writing the songs, did you have anything in mind like that you wanted to influence or tip your hat to?
Well, I know that my influences and my hat tipping comes out naturally, so I didn't. It's to me, if I was a musician, they'd all be concept albums. Sort of like the Mountain Goats, who I love. He writes great stuff no matter what he writes. I'm friends with him. I guess I haven't seen him for a while. But when he has a concept, his imagination, his writing takes it to another level. And I mean, it takes mine to another level. It's a much lower level than his. But because I had a story that I just follow the story. Follow the story. I tell it to writers sometimes. You got to follow something. Sometimes you just follow the laughs. You just want to be funny. Follow the character. And this one, I followed the story. And though this sounds phony, the story every now and then made me think of a line. And the line made me think of a melody. I know that sometimes when I'm not writing conceptual stuff, because I write bad pop songs, I heard Tom Petty once say, the melody, it sounds pretentious, but it isn't. The melody tells you the lyrics. And sometimes that happens too. The melody sort of tells you the lyrics. You're sort of making up something and you say a gibberish word, like, oh, if I put that real word that sounded like that gibberish word. I don't know if that's what Tom Petty meant, but this one, the lyrics gave me the melody in this concept that I was writing for my rock opera. I used to say my rock opera tongue in cheek. Now I just say it. Like,
Yeah, no, it sounds
like it's
great.
a real thing. My
Why
rock
wouldn't
opera.
you? Right. I mean, it doesn't come up that much, in conversation. So own it.
You don't know how many people, like I would say under 40, maybe under 50, don't know what a rock opera is.
Wow. Well, we need to change that. And I'm sorry, I see that they're giving you have 5 minutes. I know you have to get the rest of your makeup on and stuff. You're going right on stage.
Yes.
Thank you, first of all, for being on. I really appreciate it.
I had fun. We could be friends. Maybe you're my second new best friend. After Dave.
There we go. But I always ask the same question at the end of an episode, but I tailor it depending on what we're going to talk about. So on a scale from 5 to 20, with 5 being the lowest and 20 being the highest, how many curtain calls do you give Superstar, the rock opera you wrote?
Well, okay, first of all, what's halfway between 5 and 20? That's 17. That's 8.5. So I think I'm a little better than 8.5. I think, dare I give me such a high mark as 11?
Kevin, this is what it is. It's 13. You were so close. It's 13. And the funny thing is,
I'm cramping.
Jesus Christ Superstar only got 7 curtain calls.
There you go.
So you're already better than Jesus. So
right.
Congratulations.
As they would say in Spinal Tap, I'm 6 better.
Yes, that's right. Have a great show, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Revolutions Per Movie. We release new episodes every Thursday on your favorite podcast app and additional bonus episodes every Sunday on our Patreon. The show is a completely independent affair, so the best way to support the show is through our Patreon at patreon.com/revolutionspermovie, where you can get weekly bonus episodes and shows, exclusive limited edition flexi discs and records and CDs featuring guests that have appeared on the show, and other exclusive goods sent to you just for joining. You can follow us on social media at Revolutions Per Movie and also find out more information about our various guests in the episode show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week. Bye.